quick story. We recorded Tonight at night, which was very unusual. We did most of our tracking during the day. And for whatever reason, we were having a night session. We did one take of the song. We did the second take. I looked at Jimmy, he looked at me, went, "Wait, that's it." Floyd came out from the other room and he goes, "You got to do more takes." And we said, "That's the take." It's totally not perfect, but somehow we were like, "That's the take." And that's not normally how we work. So same thing, emotional narrative, right? Is that version, the way Jimmy played, the way you lean into this chord, is it saying what you want to say? It's like building blocks. And you trust every part of the process that somehow it's all going to add up. But that's the mystery part. I couldn't tell you, because you could sit here and say, well, tonight, it worked beautifully and it was a big hit song. Well, I've done it on 50 other songs and nobody gives a shit about those songs. So I can't sit here and say it's a magical, foolproof process, but it has worked more often than not. And that's where you get into like percentage of like major league hitters, you know. If you get a hit every three out of every 10 at bats, you're a Hall of Famer, right?
That's amazing, actually, when you think about it, right? That 3 out of 10 for in baseball is Hall of Fame.
Well, I've written 400 songs, and probably 30 to 40 are widely known, maybe 50. So my percentages are good. You look at the Beatles, I think, released 180 or 200 songs, and the world knows a lot of them.
When you look at today's music, okay, and I don't like to necessarily ask people this that are, you know, I'm older than you, Billy. I'm 60. You're 55. But
you're a young 60, Rick.
But and you see things like TikTok and I wouldn't say YouTube. YouTube is different, because YouTube I think of as a learning platform or an entertainment platform. But you see things like TikTok that drive the music business now. Does it seem just completely weird to you?
No. I think kids are always going to gravitate towards excitement, and you can't sort of look askance at kids for doing what's exciting to them. They're, you know, I have young kids, 4 and 7. I know you have young kids. What attracts them in a dopamine-rich society, you know, are they going to feel the same way that somebody felt watching Ed Sullivan in 1966? They're just not going to. So it's always the music businesses, or the artists, by extension, they have to figure it out. You could certainly make an argument that musical language has devolved in the last 10 to 15 years, commensurate to technology, but that's what geniuses are for. The next genius will come along and somehow figure all that out and put it together and become the Mozart of TikTok or the Kurt Cobain of Instagram or something. They just will.
Aren't you glad, though, that your career began really kind of pre-internet, pre-social media, pre-cell phone? Doesn't it?
I don't know. I think we would. Honestly, this is a weird way to put it. I think the band would be bigger and young now than we were back in the day. I think we were a perfect band for social media. In fact, I think we were doing social media before there was social media, because we would cause fake controversies and we would pretend argue with each other in public and on MTV. We would do all sorts of weird stunts and very meta in today's landscape. And the band was very visually rich and 4 distinct personalities, strong personalities. I think the band would have done quite well.
You had a lot of great controversy that happened, and
but we also courted it, which was part of our. It sounds glib, but part of our business model, because we figured out very early on that the critics didn't necessarily like us. So if we weren't going to get good press, we had to create our own press. And this is all pre-internet. Now that sounds very trite, but pre-internet, it was very unusual to do that. To create kind of controversy by using yourself as the test dummy in the controversy. That was very unusual. And if we ever make a documentary, I think the documentary will get into that in a way that would surprise people, because, you know, I work in professional wrestling, as some people know. That's very professional wrestling. You know what I mean? Like, if we were working professional wrestling, I would insult you. Or,
you'd body slam me right now.
No, I would do something that would make you uncomfortable, that would create something that people would want to watch. Instead of us having a nice conversation about music and sevenths chords, you know, I would say, well, you know, and I saw this episode you did, Rick, where you did this, and I didn't really like it. And that's the modern world, right?
I'd like to take a second to talk to you about this channel. This is actually Rick Beato 2. I've had it since the beginning of my main channel, and many of you are not subscribed. As a matter of fact, 87% of the people that watch this channel regularly are not subscribed. So I encourage you to hit the subscribe button on this channel and on my main channel. This will help me get even more of my dream guests and help continue to grow both channels. Thank you.
So I don't blame kids for leaning into the modern world. I think it's a shame, though, that, how can I put it? When I was a kid, I went to the Dali Museum in St. Petersburg, Florida, and I was surprised that Dali could actually paint. Because my impression of Dali as a outsider type of artist was he was more of an innovator and a showman. But I was surprised that Dali could actually paint like a normal person. I use that word normal loosely. I think what's important about a show like yours is if you want to be a musician, you still have to have chops. You still have to be able to execute at a very high level in whatever your medium is, because the chops will definitely come into play. The people, if you go to a Broadway show, that person's danced for 10,000 hours. Even if it looks like they're doing it like it's nothing. I still think you have to have that. I don't think there's anything wrong with kids going to School of Rock and learning how to play like Angus Young. It's all good. I still think that's important.
Well, I always say that instruments don't play themselves.
Well,
You
these
have to
days, but look, we're on the verge of AI systems that will literally make learning how to play an instrument completely redundant.
Maybe. I know we're on the verge of it, but
I'm going to bet you on that.
But
I bet in 20 years there will be artists who figure out how to use AI systems to game some type of keyboard that will intuitively understand what they're trying to do and do all the heavy lifting.
well, that will be that's going to be in the next 3 years. That's my prediction with that.
What I'm saying is, my argument would be, whether it's 10 years or 20, it will be prevalent. AI systems will completely dominate music. The idea of an intuitive artist beating an AI system is going to be very, very difficult, because the punters will come along because they're photogenic or because they're sociopaths, which, you know, the music business loves sociopaths, and will reward somebody who figures out how to game some intuitive AI system that if they play 3 notes into it, it'll write their songs for them. And as long as they rap or sing over it halfway decently, and somebody can auto-tune it in a basement somewhere, and they'll go from obscurity to making $1 million a year, they're not going to argue about the fact that they can't play a keyboard or never learn the difference between a 7th and a 9th chord, or whether or not Kevin Shields was an innovator. They're just going to blow past all of that. It won't matter to them. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I do think that something will be lost, because the things we've talked about here and the things you often talk about on your show involve a deeply emotional, intuitive process that takes time. It takes time. It's an exploration of self. Jimmy Chamberlain, my brother in the band, whose drums are right here, he's playing at a level right now which is insane. And we've spent most of our time talking about stuff Jimmy and I did over 25 years ago. Jimmy Chamberlain right now is playing at a level that is almost beyond my comprehension, and no one's played more with Jimmy Chamberlain than I. To watch him as a musician, as a father, as a friend, go through that deeply emotional process of learning, recommitting, bringing new things to the table. He plays a lot of jazz. That's influenced his drumming. No AI system will ever trump that journey.
absolutely, totally agree.
Yeah.